I'm Jama Dodson, and I am the worship assistant for this morning, and this is the first time I've had to use the laptop, so bear with me. We're glad that you could join us this Sunday, either in person or online. If you're a visitor or a newcomer, I'd like to extend a special welcome, and if you are new to our congregation, be sure to fill out a newcomer form found on the live stream description or in the lobby of the church. After service, please join us downstairs for coffee and donuts. We welcome families with children, and families with children are invited to connect with the Religious Education Committee after the service for more information about the RE program. If you're attending online, you can connect with each other in the chat. And don't forget that the link for virtual coffee hour can also be found in your weekly e-news. There are several important announcements this morning. Our designated collection this morning is for our Partner Church Fund. The Partner Church program's purpose is to maintain and expand the relationship between First Unitarian of St. Louis and our partner church in Romania. You can make your donation by putting cash in the Sunday morning collection plate or a check with designated collection in the memo line. Or you can use the QR code at your pews to make an online donation. Beyond Earth Day, Climate Revival 2 is Sunday, August the 3rd, 2025, from 1 to 3 p.m. here at First Unitarian. Join congregations from across the St. Louis region as we learn and lament, reground, and recommit ourselves to the work of environmental justice in the St. Louis region and beyond. Our Central West End neighbor, Trinity Episcopal Church, operates an ongoing food ministry that includes a food pantry and a Sunday hot lunch program. On Sunday, July 27th, First Church members and friends can support the hot lunch program by preparing a meal for approximately 100 in our fellowship hall kitchen and transporting and serving it at Trinity. This is a great multi-generational volunteer activity that benefits our neighbors in need. Food prep begins at 10 a.m. and concludes at Trinity at 3 p.m. with cleanup. Volunteer shifts are available throughout the morning and afternoon, permitting helpers to participate in preferred ways and shifts. You can also support our effort by donating home-baked cookies. Volunteers may sign up by accessing our online volunteer form or in Fellowship Hall. Now, please center yourself in preparation for worship. Welcome to this religious community where we affirm the worth and dignity of all who enter. We gather in community, understanding that we are all sacred beings, diverse in cultures, experience, identity, and theology. Our values invite us to a shared journey of truth and meaning-making, and together we foster a spirit of gratitude and generosity so that all may feel welcome and all can thrive. We're glad you're here with us this morning. Now please enjoy our prelude.
Good morning. I am Dr. Scott Sinclair with pronouns him and his. I am delighted to be here today in what I consider to be my home UU congregation, although I currently live in Lee Summit, Missouri. I've already seen lots of friendly faces and very grateful to be back. I call us into worship with the words from 1 Kings 19 from the Hebrew Tanakh, or what Christians have called the Old Testament. The word of the Lord spoke to Elijah, saying, "Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Now there was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice, or sheer silence. I invite you to rise as you are willing and able and join us in the singing of hymn 126, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing."
Today's chalice lighting words come from an excerpt from Our Passion for Justice by Carter Hayward. We touch this strength, our power, who we are in the world, when we are most fully in touch with one another and with the world. There's no doubt in my mind that in so doing, we are participants in ongoing incarnation, bringing God to life in the world. For God is nothing other than the eternally creative source of our relational power, our common strength, a God whose movement is to empower, bringing us into our own together, a God whose name in history is love.
I want to invite the children or the young at heart of any age to come forward as I share a story. We're going to sit down here. All right. See, and you have inspired other people to come also. A bit more cautious. Okay. I want to share a story, but I want to introduce a few words before we start the story. Does anyone know where, we have more people coming up. Does anyone know where Czechoslovakia is? Can anyone pronounce Czechoslovakia? Very good. Okay. Well, I didn't have a globe that was big enough for everyone to see, but we're in Europe on this map. This is Spain, France. That red dot is where Czechoslovakia used to be. It is no longer a country. It was split in half some years ago. But that's where this story is going to occur. And then there's some strange sounding words that I'm going to be using. Gestapo and Nazi. Anyone ever heard of these words? That's good. The Gestapo and the Nazi, they were the law enforcement or the military people of Germany just before the Second World War. And I don't like to be negative toward people, but they did a lot of what we would consider bad things. Okay? Okay, so that's the background. Okay. I'm going to tell a story about a boy who found out that his Unitarian Universalist grandmother and grandfather were heroes. How many of you have grandparents that you can talk to? Okay, all three of you. How many grandparents do you have? Two. Two. I only had two also. Oh, how many grandparents? Two. Wow. If you're really lucky, you have four, but some of us might have three, but I only had two also. Have you ever asked your grandparents to tell you a story about their growing up? No? Have you? Have you? Was it a great story?
They told me what they were when they were adults.
Uh-huh. Okay. Speaking as a grandparent, there's probably few, if anything, more special to me, but sharing stories with my grandchildren. And some of my fondest memories is when I asked my grandparents to tell me stories. So here's a suggestion. Sometime, ask your grandparents to tell you stories of them growing up. I heard stories of northern Michigan, but you'll hear different stories. Okay, here goes the story. As an 8th grader, none of you are in 8th grade yet. Well, some of you have gone through 8th grade. As an 8th grader in New York City, a boy named Artemis chose his grandmother to interview for a school assignment. His grandmother was named Martha Sharp. Telling his grandparents' story is a way to pass along the question that Martha Sharp posed to Artemis throughout his life. Now, this is the question that we're going to hear a bunch. What are you going to do that is important in your life? Ooh, that's a tough question. What are you going to do that's important in your life? Okay, on a snowy night in Prague in Czechoslovakia in 1939, Martha Sharp jumped from a taxi, darted across the corner, and flattened herself against a doorway. The heels of a pursuing Gestapo agent clicked by her. She entered an unlit apartment building, dashed up 5 flights of stairs, and rang a bell of a known anti-Nazi leader. 6 weeks earlier, Martha and her husband, the Reverend Waitzel Sharp, had left their young children safely behind in the United States so that they could volunteer for relief effort in Czechoslovakia, sponsored by the American Unitarian Association. Then one night in 1939, the Nazi army marched into Prague, the capital of Czechoslovakia, and occupied the city. So this is a scary time. The helping mission of the Sharps instantly changed into a treacherous cloak and dagger mission. Do we know that expression, cloak and dagger? It's like if you turn the wrong corner, someone might, how do I say this nicely? Attack you. I'll put it that way. So it was a really rough time to be in Prague, Czechoslovakia. That March night, a woman opened the apartment door to Martha, denying that she had ever heard of the man that Martha was asking for. I begged, Martha recounted the story later to her biographer. I told her there was little time. I produced my American passport. When she saw it, she said in Czechs, "A moment," and then snatched my passport from me, shut the door in my face. For the next few minutes, Martha frantically worried whether she'd see her passport again. Her passport was her only ticket to safety. We don't live in a country like that currently, but that would be a scary thing to give up your ticket to safety. But the door did open, and this time a man stood before her. Martha asked if he was Mr. X, as Martha later referred to him when she told the story. His name wasn't really X, but she's not giving the last name. He said he could give Mr. X a message. She explained that she had been charged by the group of British and American refugee workers with transporting him to the British embassy so he could be smuggled out of the country, because it was so dangerous to live in Czechoslovakia. The man asked her to wait a moment, then disappeared into the apartment. He opened the door again, wearing an overcoat. He handed Martha her passport. She probably breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I am Mr. X." Together, they walked through the wind and snow. So this is in snowy March. A Nazi soldier stopped them when they reached the bridge over the Tava River. Martha produced her passport and confidently announced, "Americans." They were waved across the bridge. then stopped by another soldier on the other side. The passport trick worked again, Americans. Just steps outside the British embassy, a third Gestapo agent stopped them. Martha began to loudly complain about the lack of taxis and her frustration of being late for a meeting. She flashed her passport again, demanded the guard to tell the secretary, Mr. and Mrs. Sharp are here. He waved them ahead to speak with the British guard, and Martha and Mr. X walked into the embassy to safety. Martha then returned to her apartment where Waitzel was returning from a similar mission. They watched out the window as Nazi soldiers looted. Do we know that word? Looted? That's taken all the stuff out of stores. That's not what we do. So the Nazis were taking everything out of the store. They were stealing it, essentially. The rescue of Mr. X is one of hundreds that the couple orchestrated, helping Jews, non-Jews, intellectuals, political leaders, writers, artists, and children flee to safety from the Nazis. Yet the heroism of Martha and Waitzel Sharp is just beginning to be recognized. The story of the Sharps illuminates some of the dilemmas that perplex people who care about social justice. How many of us want to help, but we're afraid, or we don't know what to do? Taking a courageous stand does not require sacrifices and heroics like the Sharps did. It is easy to feel small in comparison to Waitzel and Martha Sharp. Not every one of us can set out for war-torn Europe, but every one of us can help those who do. And that's why we're in a community, to help those that are able to do things that we can't do. In sharing his grandmother's story, Artemis wanted her story to inspire others, not to overwhelm them, but to inspire them. Life is made of righteous moments, not grandiose moments. The key part of my grandparents wasn't just one big moment. They made thousands of little choices that led to the story that we now tell. Yes? Oh, did you want to ask a question? Okay. Artemis remembers his grandmother, Martha Sharp, asking him, what are you going to do that is important in your life? Even now that he has grown up and married and he has 3 children, he still hears these words. And as a child, Artemis always answered the same way. Guess what he said? I'm going to overcome my disease. Because you see, he had lifelong spinal muscular atrophy, a progressive illness. Today, after many, many little choices, he is the advocate for disability rights and author of Raising the Bar, New Horizons in Disability Sports. Telling his grandparents' story is a way to pass along to you a new generation the question that Martha Sharp always asked him. What are you going to do that's important in your life? Any thoughts on that? Yes.
Clean up.
Clean up. That's a good way to start. Well said. Any other thoughts? Yes. Don't litter. Clean up and don't litter. Well, that's a beginning, and that's an example of the many little things that help us along the way. Yes?
He said that because on our way here, there was lots of trash.
I don't know if everyone heard that. On his way here this morning, there was lots of trash outside, so that's a good thing to begin. Well, thank you very much for coming up and sharing. Oh, okay, I've got the code. Yeah.
So the first reading this morning is In God's Presence, a Theological Reflection on Prayer by Marjorie Suhaki. God is like water flowing throughout the universe, like an ocean touching innumerable shores. The action of those waves is something like a chaotic clash of elements whose terrible dynamism reshapes what is and brings new things to emergence. And the action of those waves is also gentle and quiet, nurturing all forms of existent life. The one form does not contradict the other, nor the varieties in between. For the nature of water is interaction with all elements in its path, taking the nature of each element into account in the resulting action. God is like water.
My reading is Models of God, Theology for an Ecological Nuclear Age by Sally McFaig. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Have any of you ever said that when you were a child? This taunt from childhood is haunting in its lying bravado, because it is the names that hurt. One would prefer the sticks and the stones. Names matter because what we call something, how we name it, is to a great extent what it is to us. We are the preeminent creatures of language, and though language does not exhaust human reality, it qualifies it in profound ways. It follows, then, that naming can be hurtful, and that it can also be healing or helpful. The ways we name ourselves, one another, and the world cannot be taken for granted. We must look at them carefully to see if they heal or hurt. I would suggest that we live most of the time, and in most ways, by outmoded, anachronistic names. Relationship and interdependence, change and transformation, not substance, changelessness, and perfection, are the categories within which a theology for our day must function.
Each week, we bring our joys and our celebrations, sorrows and concerns with us to this community. And when we share our burdens, both happy and sad, we build community. Now is the time in our service when we connect with one another by sharing our sorrows and concerns. In our community, we wish Charlie Hagley, son of Danielle Kozimczak, a speedy recovery from recent appendectomy surgery. Our hearts go out to the families and those who've been lost in the flood in Texas. We have a concern for a loved one who's had surgery and is recovering and needs continuing support. And we have another concern for a person who's preparing for surgery and wishing all the best. We hold these concerns with tenderness and compassion. May they be lighter because they're shared. As a community, we also share our joys and celebrations with one another. We have a birthday of a beloved friend. We also have thank you for the Women's Alliance, who's sent a wonderful big birthday card. And I think there's one more, but I'm not seeing it. I just want to I want to say that let us share our joys so that with gladness and celebration, and may they be magnified because they are shared.
With many joys and concerns remaining unspoken in our hearts and minds, please join me in a spirit of prayer and mindful attention. We have gathered together this morning for many different reasons, but one of them is that we may find a community of love where others know our name, where they notice whether we are here or not, where others are glad that we came. Our lives make a difference. We build here community with empathy for those of us who are hurting, with a shoulder and an ear, with an open heart. We build here community with love in the joy and celebrations of others, with grins, laughter, and sparkling eyes. In the midst of sometimes anxiety and even hostility, may we feel and be one with our UU community in astounding and defiant joy and love. Amen. Blessed be.
Okay. The First Unitarian Church of St. Louis strives to be a welcoming congregation, inspiring lives of loving kindness and integrity by nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. One of the ways we do this is by sharing the plate. All non-pledged donations received this morning will go towards the partner church. This morning's offering will now be received.
We are grateful for the gracious response of this offertory. May it be used to advance our church toward our goals of nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. Thank you for the various ways in which you give your time, talent, and treasure to this community. Thank you. Again, it's good to see you all. I'm glad to be here. Around 30 years ago, I attended a workshop in Tulsa, Oklahoma on the Holocaust. Of the various classes and presentations, I chose one on Treblinka, the Polish death camp. Although it was a random choice, I was thinking last night how much that choice has influenced my academic career. I later wrote a master's thesis on the history of Christian anti-Judaism in thought and words. If you happen to come from a Catholic background, you may know that about 60 years ago in Vatican II, the document Nostra Aetate was the attempt of the Roman Catholic Church to remedy the teaching of disdain toward other religions. It was an important document. Some of us wish that it had gone further, but still it was an important first step. Later on, I'll be talking about, thank you. Later on, I'll be talking about process theology. My pursuit of that also goes back to that choice of going to the Treblinka presentation. The presenter had researched Treblinka, visited the site, and provided a slideshow of historical pictures and the present-day memorial. It is estimated that somewhere between 700,000 and 900,000 Jews were murdered in its gas chambers, along with 2,000 gypsies. More Jews were murdered at Treblinka than any other Nazi extermination camp apart from Auschwitz-Birkenau. The Nazis tried to cover up the site near the end of the war by destroying the buildings, plowing the ground, and hoping that it would disappear. The site was actually found by an Allied soldier reaching down to the ground and discovering human ashes and bone fragments. Today, the site is memorialized by shattered pieces of granite, symbolizing the thousands of broken lives. They are laid out helter-skelter in a field, perhaps reminding us of the chaotic manner in which people were captured and executed. Alongside the fields are rectangular slabs symbolizing the train tracks that brought the victims to this killing field. Suffice it to say that it was a powerful and moving presentation. I had tears in my eyes, which either rightly or wrongly is very rare for me. And then near the end of his presentation, the presenter softly said something that hit me like a thunderbolt. He said, "I experienced God there." I experienced God there? In the rush to move on with the program, he never explained what he meant by that cryptic sentence. What do we make of this? I did not stand or speak, but wanted to cry out, how can you say that? Given the specter of evil and hatred that had been perpetrated there, how can you relate that to God? I'm going to leave that for a moment. We'll get back to Treblinka a little bit later. Within the Orthodox Christian tradition, God is claimed to be all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful. Many medieval theologians, especially Thomas Aquinas, picking up Aristotle's argument that the world was created by an unmoved mover, maintain that God did not change and was transcendent or beyond our physical lives and world. Yet, if one argues that God is all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful, how can God be defended against the most obvious presence of evil as exemplified by Treblinka? Theodicy is the part of Christian theology that seeks to justify or vindicate God for the existence of evil. There is a vast body of writing on this topic, a full consideration of theodicy is well beyond what we could do today. But typical moves are, first, to say that humans are responsible for evil and not God. Of course, then one might wonder, how is God all-powerful? And second, it is allowed because a small pixel of evil may be justified if one looks at the big and beautiful picture that God is creating. We can choose for ourselves the possible merits or demerits of those arguments. Picking up on the Sally McVeigh reading, I think that it is crucial in our times to reconsider how we name our spiritual ideas. The word God often carries those Christian traditional claims, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving, which may or may not nourish our spiritualities today. I suggest divine mystery is much more open and appropriate. Mystery is not fully understood and open to various ideas or metaphors and corrections. Marjorie Suhaki compares the word God to water, which is a metaphor of which our Hindu, Buddhist, and Taoist friends make frequent use. Water is flexible. It adapts to wherever it is found. It is not unchangeably transcendent. It takes all the surrounding environmental conditions into account. Another model for understanding the divine mystery has been embraced by some Christian theologians and ministers and some Reconstructionist Jewish rabbis. It is called process or relational theology. Both McVeigh and Suhaki, along with UU's Charles Hartshorne, have written extensively about this model originally put forward by Alfred North Whitehead. Very, very briefly, it suggests that the divine is much more immanent, close to us, than traditional God talk has tended to be. In fact, process thought suggests that everything is impermanent and changing or in process. This even includes God. Buddhism resonates with this same perspective of the reality and importance of impermanence. Reality for process thinkers is sort of like viewing an old-fashioned film strip with individual pictures, excuse me, but if you move the film strip fast enough, it looks like one steady motion. In each split second or picture on that film strip of life, a divine lure, suggestion, or persuasion is given toward the best possible outcomes. Humans determine the outcome of each split second, and we often, sadly, disregard the divine suggestion. Consequently, the divine suggestion is then modified to accommodate the succeeding moment. Since new things occur in life, these divine lures are actually the source of all genuine novelty. Although the divine purpose is consistent, in another sense, the divine mystery is constantly changing to adapt in relationality with humans and all creation. This might be compared to dancing. Each partner's movement causes a complementary movement in the other, even as in my case, I happen to step on the other's toe. To dance with someone is to be, almost by definition, in close relationship. In contrast, it'd be very difficult to dance with a column or a pulpit because it doesn't react. It's transcendent to our needs. Process thought also maintains that all creation is interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. To attempt to separate from or wall off oneself, group, or even country from others or creation produces loss. This is because genuine novelty and the best possible outcomes take into account all elements, like Suhaki's water. There is also an emphasis on living in the here and now. Our lives become part of or embedded in the divine mystery, or in other words, the timeless dance of life. Okay, this is surely a very superficial and inadequate explanation of process relational thought, but I hope it gets us musing about different ways to consider the divine mystery, perhaps a little bit outside of the box that some of us may be used to. Back to Treblinka. Although my initial reaction to the presenter's sentence was shock and really disgust, in just a few minutes, as I thought about it, I experienced an overwhelming yes. I had been moved by the feeling toward thousands of people who I never knew and will never know, and yet I felt through the power of the presenter. He presented it a lot more powerfully than what I'm able to do today, that I had been moved by those people that I never knew. I had an empathy toward them, a connection, and a love which witnessed a nearly palpable presence. It was that feeling, that experience, that captured me, that said, yes, I have experienced something here. I might not have used the word God, but I think I know exactly what the presenter meant. The Nazis may have cruelly taken lives, but they could not destroy or cover up the presence and witness of humanity wherein the love of the divine resides. One of my favorite musings about the divine mystery is that, for me anyway, it is found most apparent in the interconnectedness of love between humans and all creation, whether we choose to call it God or not. The mystery is not so much in Elijah's wind, earthquake, or fire, as the call to worship gave, but rather in the quiet stillness of love that resonates among us as we care. It is beyond words and observation. Love is the center of our UU spirituality, especially after a year ago revising, making some of those revisions at the annual general meeting. May all of us find times to dance, not with pulpits, but with the divine mystery and our universe, and find love in the interconnected web of life, even if it is in the midst of tragic pain and loss. May we also advance justice, one of the three elements here at First Unitarian St. Louis. May we advance justice in the same spirit as Martha and Waitzel Sharp, American Unitarian aid workers who helped thousands of people escape Nazi persecution. Among those they helped were Jews, intellectuals, and children in not only Prague, Czechoslovakia, hard to pronounce, but also Lisbon and southern France. In recognition of the risks it took to assist Jews, Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Authority in Israel, honored the Sharps as righteous among the nations in 2006. Martha Sharp's question to her grandson also calls to us. What are you and I going to do that is important in our lives and within our community? Now, please rise as you are able and willing and join us in our closing hymn, 300, With Heart and Mind. Join with me in these closing words. Earth Mother, Star Mother, you who are called by 1,000 names, may all remember we are cells in your body and dance together. You are the grain and the loaf that sustains us each day, and as you are patient with our struggles to learn, so shall we be patient with ourselves and each other. We are radiant light and sacred dark, the balance. You are the embrace that heartens and the freedom from fear. Within you we are born, we grow, live, and die. You bring us around the circle to rebirth. Within us, you dance forever. Amen and blessed be.
Please stay for the postlude, and when it ends, as your final act of worship, please turn and greet your neighbor.